We are here with Nikkiana Jones, who has just moved to Arkansas among the crystals. And I was astonished to hear this today, just before the interview. And I'd like her to start with why she moved to this specific location on our planet. Welcome to the show, Nikkiana Jones.
Hi, Jock. Thank you for having me. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, so I moved to Arkansas at the beginning of the summer. I have been called to be moving here for at least 10 years. I've been coming and digging crystals in like there's this Lake Ouachita, which is the biggest lake in Arkansas. And there's a lot of mines out here, like probably 7 or 8 different mines you could pay to play where you go and you like they give you a vein and you can dig out some quartz, and it's the clearest quartz. And like Arkansas's quartz is the cream of the crop all over the world, um, because they have the actual like purest clarity. And so every time I come here, I just am like, I look at property or I'm enamored with it, or I don't know. It's been a thing for me. And then I eventually this just like this year I was like, I just have to go there. I have to go there. And I kept on having like these weird dreams that it was a pyramid complex, or that there was this thing. So it was made like they at the Ouachita River, they dammed up in the 1940s. And I like found some old articles about it where there were two archaeological sites that were in the process of happening on these mound sites in the middle of where the Ouachita Lake sits now, and they were never completed, and can't even find like the reports on them. Just that there were two separate really big mound complexes that they buried in the lake.
Hmm.
And so I don't know. I keep on having dreams that there's like 200 little islands inside this lake. And I know some of them are, I think some of them are like peak tops or something of um, some of these old complexes. There's something very special about this area. And I don't want anybody to move here. So maybe I shouldn't tell anybody how special it is. But like a lot of people don't come to Arkansas because they have this whole, oh, there's Hicks, or like I don't know, there's like a stigma about it. And I like that stigma because I'm like, yeah, right, you stay away because it's not very populated, and that's what's amazing about it. And it's just beautiful. And I live in a national park in a forest, and I don't have any 5G because there isn't any 5G towers around here. There's only 9,000 people in the county I live in, the county, not even the town. And so I'm using Starlink as my internet. That's the only thing I could get. So I'm using satellite internet, and it works great and it's fine. And I have half a mile from a natural spring. So I get all my water that comes straight out of the water, straight out of the ground. And it's like the purest, best tasting water ever. And I can't begin to tell you how much just drinking like natural pure water that doesn't have any city filtration or whatever fluoride stuff for crap they put in it has helped my dreamscape, and just my it's just calmed me so much in my clarity of mind, and everything has been amazing. The water's worth it if nothing else.
Well, because you do seem different from the last time I talked to you. You do seem like, now that you mentioned the word calm, I mean, I don't know, you do seem more grounded. Let's just say that.
Well, I mean, I'm not in like a city, like I used to live in Dallas. Like I'm not in city smog and all kinds of different EMFs, like going like an EMF soup that you're like completely in all the time. And I do think when you're in nature every day, like the forest, this is Joaquin always says this. That's my husband. So he's like, um, forest is for rest,
Mhm.
and I do think that, like, I think when you're out in nature, you really get to drop down. And I was thinking about this today. It's like all of society is basically created to distract you from your internal like navigation system, or your own internal like who you really are, or what's going on in here, or wait, what is existence? Why are we here? Why do we even exist at all? What is this? Like all of that is completely trying to be like the phone is like a distraction tool of like, oh, how do we get their attention completely away from everything all the time?
About a month ago, I was thinking about you, because you came up to me at the Journey to Truth conference in 2023 in Grafton, Illinois, after a talk that I gave on the building of the planet called Who Built Terra? And you said, "Oh my God, I built mountains," and I was like, "Oh, who's this crazy woman who built mountains?" I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't think you were crazy. I believed every word you said, but it's like for most people in the world, the things that you were saying to me after that talk were complete lunacy. So I want you to, can you just give me that
Okay, so to preface, so like I have a
sure.
minor in geology. Like it's not like I'm completely like I have a master's in art history. Like I did the standard traditional societal things, right? So like I am an educated in rocks, even in history kind of person. Okay, so I'll just start with that, okay? And then I just kind of don't I'm not satisfied with what they tell you. It's just bullshit. Like there's so much elements of bullshit I could get into. You know, like for example, in geology, they say there's like igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphous rocks. Those are your three types of rocks. But like if you really go down to the root of it, that's all the parent source is like molten lava from the middle of the earth, right? That's what they're telling us. And there's just so much stuff that doesn't make sense about that. Like if you look at a piece of granite, and I think I've said this before when we were on our interview, it has like a cookie dough mix almost perfectly of, you know, like whatever. If we go with rose quartz, it'll be like feldspar and quartz and tourmaline or whatever kind of stones are in like whatever granite mix there is.
Right.
And it's not like, oh, there's a chunk of this here and a big chunk of this. It's all like someone is literally mixing up some chocolate chip cookies. It's very evenly distributed.
I
And so all of these granites, you're kind of going like, this is a made composite. Like this composite rocks are, even if you had a great flood or some giant like event that da, why is it so evenly distributed? Like, why don't you have a quartz chunk this big in some of it? Or, you know, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense about the crystallology of, and crystals, by the way, grow and they're alive.
right.
That's the difference between a rock and an actual crystal and a crystalline thing. Um, they're not telling us the full story because they don't know the full story of what the hell we're on or what these things are. There's so much of uh like I was driving back from Colorado. I was in Colorado 2 days ago and we were driving back and stopped. There's on the border of Oklahoma and Colorado at the corner. There's this place called Two Buttes, and I never heard of it ever. And it's just like there are these giant limestone beehive cones. And it's like somebody just you know, just went like bloop, bloop,
Yeah.
and dropped a bunch of sand and then it petrified and here it is in the middle of the flat plain and nowhere. There's so many weird things that I don't even know how you geologically would have explained that. I mean, they're just I'm sure they'll say like erosion. They'll use like these blanket words. This is what I've noticed what science and academia do. They use these things like they cover everything up with time. So if it's millions and millions of years of erosion, it
Right.
becomes the sedimentary rock or the this and that.
Right.
So they use the mask of time, like that's one layer of paint and speckle that they use. And then the other thing they use is just like, you know, erosions or catastrophes or unknown, like ice age. This is glacial melting and this is this. And I mean, I'm not saying there isn't that stuff, but I think it's blankly used to just describe something you don't understand.
Right. You know,
So
it's
yeah,
funny because you and I have, just to interject real quick, you and I have come to the same conclusion from different lives on the planet. Because in my videos, I always talk about how geology or geologists use this term erosion like it's their God. It does
yeah,
everything. So if something is smooth, oh, it was eroded. If it's something is rough, oh, it was eroded. So no matter what it is, if it's a cliff, it was erosion. If it's not a cliff, it's erosion. Everything is erosion.
right. And then how are we supposed to, if we're getting different minerals like in different elements,
Yeah,
um, so we're basically led to believe that The only thing that makes the element different from the ground is the amount of time it's been away from it. Like, so if you just have an iron melting core of magma at the center of the earth, that's all there is. And then it comes up to the, so everything has this parent source of molten iron. And
Mm,
then depending on the rate at which it cooled and how long it's been away from that and where it's been determines its mineralogy. I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense, actually. If you just step back and listen to what you're saying, it doesn't make sense.
right.
There's a lot of weird things. It's like, okay, I only know this because my family was in the oil business in West Texas. Like my grandfather had both grandparents had like one grandfather had a bunch of semi trucks that would work with taking crude oil from like whatever, from the actual pump jack to the refinery. And like I used to like go around some of these big tanks and stuff when I was little and like measure how much oil was taken in and out by a semi and working with it. And you like work with crude oil and you smell it from like as it just came out of the ground and stuff. It's it's weird. But then my grandfather would always tell me is like we had a couple of wells that like when they go dry, you just let them sit for 5, 6 years, and then you pump some brine water in them again, and then they come back. And he's like, well, what? Like he's like Nikki, you got to think of it like a blackhead. He's like, you got to like the blackhead will come out, and you feel like it's good, and all of it's gone, but then they'll just come back eventually. It's like the oil of the earth starts coming back up. And they call it the blood of the earth, like in West Texas, and that's what I think it is. It's not fossil fuels. In fact, it goes lower than fossils ever supposedly in the fossil record ever went.
Right.
So you're kind of they tell us like this name fossil fuel like we think that it's flora and fauna's like decaying carbon over years and years. No, it's actually the blood of the planet that is alive itself. That's why it is. I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, it's a renewable resource completely. Let's just like suck it all up all the time. But I'm saying it's not what they're telling you it is.
Right. There's this term for people who want to look up what you're talking about. There's this term called abiotic oil. So it's just one word, abiotic. And Russian researchers, field researchers, not just people sitting in their chair at home, but people who went out into the field and drilled 40,000 feet down, found oil way, like you said, way below
Where
any
any
kind of,
civilization or any life would have ever been.
yeah, any dead dinosaurs and decaying plants, way below that level. And there's the oil. And it's like, well, the Russian researchers have proved, and in many papers, scientific papers published in scientific publications, they've proved that it's abiotic, but nobody seems to care. They're just like, fuck it, we're just going to call it fossil fuels.
Yeah, I mean, it's become a weird political thing or something. And yeah, so
So
it's
we already know that that's nonsense. But if you go to the university, you're going to get that nonsense plus the stuff you're talking about the origin of rocks, you know?
yeah, and it's just like they have no explanation for like rocks. They really don't. They could just be like, yes, this is a rock that, like the way mountains are formed, we are to believe it's just these tectonic plates that just go raw and
Yeah,
then like, push them up because they're converging
yeah,
and or like one plate is slipping under the other one
yeah.
and
Subduction.
yep, subduction zone or like they could go under each other, they could go press up on each other and start building up like this, or they could slip on each other. And I mean, yeah, I think there are these like suture lines on the planet, but the tectonic plates in which they talk about, I don't think they're 100% understood the way that they tell us they are.
Nikki, I just wanted to show you this book, Beyond Plate Tectonics by James Maxlow. He's this
Okay.
Australian geologist, professional geologist who retired and said, you know what? The geology is wrong about the Earth being a steady diameter. It's expanding, and plate tectonics is nonsense. And so he documents it all in this book, plus other publications he's written. But yeah, so
I'll check that out actually. I'm dork enough that that's like my kind of reading at night. Like that's what I like. I like that.
I
So
can
yeah,
send,
cool.
I can send you the PDF because James sent me the PDF on the day that I bought the book. He's like, "Oh, here's the PDF," and I'm like, "Oh, I just bought your book,
Okay,
buddy."
cool. Well, send it
I'll
to me,
send you
please.
the free
Yeah.
PDF so you can read it. But it's like what you're talking about is backed up by academic people like James Maxlow, who and people can go to his site, Expansion Tectonics. I mean, it's so you're not just talking nonsense.
So I have memory recall of being light itself and the
Wait,
situation
that was an interesting segue. You have recall of what now?
being light, like light in and of itself is a consciousness. Okay. So light in and of itself is a thing. And so I remember being a ball of light that was my particular colors were almost like a blue green swirl. I remember what I looked like, but the interesting thing about when I was this ball of light, this is when I made mountains. I'm just telling you how I made them. So I'm getting to that.
This is when you what?
Made mountains.
You made mountains?
Yeah. So this is the thing. Is this is a memory. It could be just a crazy crap memory, but
Oh, I love this. I can't, I'm emphasizing it only because I love it so much.
okay, so like you could take this for a grain of salt. Like I don't want anybody to believe this. I'm just telling you my experience. So the thing is that from my memory recall, good or bad, or who knows how it is or not. I when I was this like swirl blue green light ball, like orb or whatever you want to call it of light, that that in of itself was interesting because it was like, I was like a collection of like something that radiated this light thing, right? Well, but my vision was 360 all over. Right now, it's like I'm focusing on you, Jock. Like I'm in front of this computer. I can do this. I'm in this one thing. I'm here. There's this. And this is such a hard skill to get to from when you're everything. So it was like how we had to create matter was like we were in this etheric, weird, like light bodied form. And it was this, you had to shut off everything and get down to where you were into one point of focus. And the discipline and strength that was involved in that took there wasn't such thing really as time, but that was involved, and that took a lot of collaboration with other light and consciousness. And um anyway, so I remember like when I would build a mountain, it's almost like the ground was like a well's skin. It was like an alive, rubbery like substance, and almost like a putty or something, and everything was the same. And we, as in other balls of light, we would like get center points of focus, and we would go in and we would bring stuff up and we would manifest things into matter. And this wasn't just rocks. We did other stuff, but I personally remember working on rocks. Like there's people that worked on water, worked on uh like different elements. They worked on different things. Mine was like forming ground and building interesting structures and things. And it was like you were like an artist. You were just trying to do these crazy things. And then I also remember the process of signing it. Like you would go up, like you would swirl yourself and then get your one point of focus, and then you would like just like fly through your creation. And I would leave turquoise. That was like my signature. That was like boom, that's what I did. And my focus really was in the Southwest. That's where I live, and that's like what I remember building. I don't know, I could be crazy as hell. I mean, that sounds damn crazy, but I'm just saying, like, it's a memory that I had about going from consciousness into physical matter and how to do it.
Well, I have like about 10 million questions because first of all, you're talking about Terra. You're talking about our planet.
Yeah.
Do you remember if there were other planets that had already existed when Terra was created? Or
Okay,
is it
so this
just
is complicated because like with like okay, now this is where guys are going to be like, whoa, she's super crazy. But like the last year I've been having a series of like interesting downloads, and they're not from anybody else. They're just like memory downloads. So I went to the Sunspot Solar Observatory in New Mexico, and I went there in October of 2023, and I was waiting to go into the tour of the biggest telescope that, like it's like a big solar telescope where half of it's underneath the ground and it's on a pendulum and it's doing this stuff. And I'm just minding my own business, waiting for the tour guide to get there, waiting for them to open the door. And I like look up at the sun, and then I get like hit and like fall to my knees. And it was just like this crazy download. And it was like, my consciousness, my body like left my body and just like, this is all happening very quickly, like maybe 20 seconds or something. It's not taking a long time, but like I like go through the sun, and then I'm like, oh shit. Okay, so the sun, first of all, okay, so this is so weird. Okay, but so the sun is not a ball, it's a hole. And so yeah, okay, so this is what happened. Like in 2018, they shut down Sunspot Observatory because there was like some sort of like claim of pedophilia porn on some like computer or something. I'm not really sure um what the details of that part of the story was, but I knew it had to do with something like that. And so there were like 40 something, like mid 40s, like 46, 47 solar scientists that were working at a Sunspot Observatory. And then they shut the whole place down. And then now there's only two or three that are active employed there. So even on the tour guide lady was saying that the solar observation has the highest attrition rate of any science. And all of the observatories in 2018 that observed the sun were all shut down at the same time on that day. And it was just like, don't look here, that's super, super suspicious. And then you find out that all of our solar records are actually having a 24-hour, like even like I follow this space weather live thing. And I actually need to like try to maybe contact the people who like do that app and see for sure like how they think they're getting their data, because I know for a fact from like this solar observatory, and I think there's only like 12 in the world, um that they have to like the data has to be reviewed before it can be published to the public.
There's
There's
a
a
24-hour gap
there's a
between.
24-hour gap before the information you're getting to what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And like that should concern you, and that should be weird. Why wouldn't we have live streaming of the actual sun? Like I guess if you're an amateur guy and you want to just do your own stuff, sure. But um so I'm just prefacing with that. So anyway, so like I go through the sun, and I don't know, this is crazy, but it's like space is actually inverted. Like what I see is that space is white with black hot dots, not black with white dots. And so the sun, like when I was there, it was just like the light of consciousness was everything. And then I started remembering, oh, okay, so when I came into this black dot, like this universe that we're in,
Yeah.
I came in here because like it's almost like you're trying to dissolve the dark. So you come in as a point of light, and I entered through the sun, and then like I see all these stars and stuff, and they're almost as if like it's this weird black filament, and there's or membrane, I don't know. I didn't ask to have these weird downloads or something. They just happened to me, you
Right.
know? And yeah, so like I've started to question a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I do think that like, and then so I'm kind of like, well, what are aliens? Because I have actually had run-ins physically in person with other beings, and I've had like coming into my room at night kind of thing. I've had all kinds of different paranormal experiences, including seeing a unicorn in real life with other people that could like verify this with me. There's other realms, okay, let's just call them realms for now, that
Yeah.
we can access in this world. And I don't know how realms work in the other cosmology of the sun just being a hole into the blanket consciousness or not. But I think that like there's something under like within our earth. I think there's inner earth 100%. I think we have beings that live like inside the planet. I
Yeah.
think there's a civilization there for sure. And I also think that we have intelligence things that are being, it's like that concept of like you can have an ant next to a highway system, and he could be building his little ant mound and he'll have no idea what that highway system is.
Right.
I think we might be dealing a little bit with that kind of thing too. Like there could be something right in front of our nose and we don't even know that that's something to wonder about.
Well, yeah, I mean, David Icke talks about this. He constantly talks about how the visible spectrum, as we call it,
Yeah.
is the smallest little possible part of this frequency spectrum.
Yeah. And in my dreams, I have colors that don't exist here. So I know that we have this is instrumentation flaw. Like, our eyeballs only see what they see. We
Yeah,
can't see ultraviolet, we can't see infrared, but we know they're there.
right.
So like then like what else are we not seeing? And then I've heard the concept of can't remember, my friend Katie's told me this, but I don't remember who she heard it from or that, but there's the concept of almost like there's we could think of music and frequencies and octaves, but there's like octaves of visual light spectrums as well. So it couldn't just be, it's not just like on a line of like, oh,
Right,
there's ultraviolet and there's red
right.
infrared, but like we're also talking about like it could literally be like in a 3D way as well as just a linear way, like in a spiral up and spiral down, and as it is this.
Nikola Tesla, for those who, again, might think that you're crazy, and I don't like that idea that they would think that my friend Nikkiana is crazy because I know she's not crazy, because everything she says makes sense to me. The reason that what she just said makes a lot of sense is that Nikola Tesla told us. Nikola Tesla, the greatest scientist ever to have lived, who has been discarded by academia. So if you go get your degree in physics, you're not gonna hear Nikola Tesla's name.
Except to the admitted AC current.
Right. He said that light can be nothing else than a sound wave in the ether. Now, academia has discarded the ether and discarded Nikola Tesla because they don't
Yeah.
want to know about the ether. So light can be nothing else than a sound wave in the ether. Wait, light could be nothing else than a sound wave. Well, what you just said is that light has harmonics just like music does.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I also think light in and of itself is conscious. It's got consciousness. So like, and I really started understanding this not this February of 2023. I went to Alaska. I went to go see the Northern Lights. I had always wanted to see the Northern Lights. I've never seen the Northern Lights. I was like, I'm gonna see the Northern Lights. So I go up to Fairbanks, and there's this place called Chena Springs, which has some viewing, like they take you on those, I don't know what they're called. They're like these old like military things up to the middle of this mountain. It's like this almost like snow trekking machine things
Yeah,
that
which
take
is
you up to the middle
good.
of nowhere in the night, and you see the northern lights. Okay, but on our way to Chena Springs, as we got there, a K8 storm was happening, which is like on a that it go the scale. The ones that we had recently that were K9 storms are the ones where it comes down all the way to Texas. But normally a K8 is like the top of the scale. It's like a huge solar storm, even though I don't believe that anymore because one, we have 24-hour delay, and two, because of what just happened to me. So what happened to me was like I just like had the calling to go, and then like we're driving, and I'm with my two friends, and Andrea was with us, and then my friend Nicole, and I was like, oh, is that them? It has to be them in the sun. And we were like, what is that? Oh yeah, and then there was these green bands of light and happening, and we're like, whoa, pull over, pull over, pull over. So we pulled over into a gas station, and they came upon us like so fast, and they were on our body, like they were like right above us, and then they like touched the ground and were like in our body, like around us, like we were inside of the northern lights. Like I didn't even know that they came down that far or that they touched the ground like that, and then they do. And then when I was like dancing in them or with them, like they're conscious, they're not
Hmm.
what they're telling us they are. Like it's conscious light. It's really weird. It's like it's its own like beings. I know that sounds crazy until you touch them and you understand them and you're like, oh, okay. So even what they tell us about northern lights is bullshit. And I think it's like an internal like whisper of the earth or something that comes from earth or inner earth, or I'm not really 100% sure where they come from or what their mission is, but they roll through,
Yeah.
and they will, I think they use this like monitoring of the sun stuff to tell us when they're going to happen like before. But yeah, It's always I don't know, something about it isn't adding up. I don't completely put the puzzle together with it. I'm just telling you the pieces don't make sense. And also we have a 23-degree tilt of the planet supposedly, right? Well, they have northern lights and southern lights at the same time when they shouldn't have southern lights when it has northern lights, because it should be completely tilted away from the sun. And so the whole solar thing doesn't actually make sense. It's got to have something more to do with poles
Yeah,
and some kind of something that's coming out of the earth poles.
I totally agree. And if people research the entrances into the Earth at the North and South Pole, they'll find out about the inner Earth. They'll find out that our Earth is hollow. And we have these huge, many mile wide entrances that have been obscured by Google Earth.
Yeah.
And flight paths are routed around these holes so that the
Yep.
people in
You
that
never go over them.
don't see them. And satellites too are routed around them. So people can go to my article on this and they can see the tapestry of flight paths of satellites that none of them go across the North Pole. They all go around it.
And it's something like above the 33rd parallel or whatever is actually illegal to fly anything over. So I mean there's weird laws about it
Yep,
too.
yep, yep. And so what the Northern Lights always have they have a ring-like structure. And so it's obviously some kind of energy coming out of the earth that's meeting maybe some kind of magnetic frequency, magnetic energy that's dancing with that energy that's coming out of the inner earth. So, but it's interesting, conscious light, that's such a great idea. I really love that.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, I just experienced it, so that's how I knew about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be the person that defends you as we have the interview in real time because I keep thinking about the people who are listening to you and going, she's crazy, and they're about to tune off. But it's like all we have, the evidence is on your side. So if we really look at the evidence and we look at the evidence of the suppression of the evidence, which we now we know how they suppressed the North and South Pole entrances. We know who did it. We know who's suppressing the Big Bang evidence. We know who fired which professors and stopped the telescope time for which astronomers who were finding evidence that the Big Bang theory was nonsense. So we know about the suppression. We know about the real evidence behind all this stuff. And so
And I think like compartmentalization, like to the ultra degree that we've gotten to at this point in life, where there's like, nobody can see the elephant in the room because everybody's just like too focused on one little thing. Like we
right.
don't have we don't focus on any Renaissance man or any like macro picture people, allows it to continue.
Well, now I got to decide for the title. I got to choose between Renaissance woman and 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 conscious light. So you can help me figure out which one I
Yeah.
do.
I don't know. I mean,
I think
yeah,
conscious light is what I'm going to go with. But you are the Renaissance woman, Nikkiana Jones. It's incredible talking to you. It always is incredible.
thank you,
Uh,
Jack.
because I learned so much because you are a matrix breaker because you actually we were just talking in the break about how you just want to know what's going on, right?
Yeah. Ultimately, like my goal is I don't want to be famous. I don't have a big like, oh, I want to do this and this. I don't want people to tell me what they like about what I'm saying or not. Like, I just want to, if you had something to add to, like, let's figure out what's going on. Like, it's not about like my ego. I just want to know, what are we in? What is this? What is this all about, really? And what really happened here? And where do we go after this? Like, what's going on?
Well, when I was in high school, I thought, well, I'm going to learn stuff in high school and then I'm going to basically know what's going on. And then college will be specialization and I'll do my specialty. But after I got out of high school, I didn't feel like the pieces fit together. They were just like there was the history class, there was the biology class, there was the other class, typing class. And then I was like, well, I still don't know what's going on. Like, so I started to read books that were outside of academia. Like I went to college, but I was reading books outside of the college, the books that would never be assigned by any professor.
Hmm.
and trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm kind of on the similar journey, and I got made fun of, by my parents for being being a truth seeker, being on a quest. They're like, oh,
Yeah, oh yeah.
like you're so dramatic. It's like, well, but nobody really knows what's going on. I don't trust any of these textbooks and professors who go on and on as if they know. Because what you said earlier in the interview was that they don't really know.
No, I think that is the biggest thing is like let people's lack of humility about what they don't know. Like, and uh, I mean, I have family members in academia, and I have all this like, and I love them and they're cool, but like it is a lot of sometimes it becomes egoic or it becomes too compartmentalized.
Right.
Where it's just like, my one of my professor cousins is like, I love her, she's great, but she's just it like if I bring up crazy things, like she's just like that, that's not my department. Like, I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a lack of curiosity to really, really examine or I remember having like in college having a kind of I had to go after class because I wanted to hone this point in a little bit more with the professor. And so it was almost like an argument where I was like, well, how can you tell us that we only know 5% of the known universe? Like, why even give it that number? Like, why even say that?
Yeah.
That's stupid to even say like 5% of the universe is only is visible. It's like, do you know there's 95% more? Or like why give it a why like so there's 95%, but we can only see 5%. Like just the fact that they would even say that or that's written, like
Yeah.
why even like there's no way to know that. It's
Right.
a stupid thing to say.
Well, this is like the standard thing with teachers in academia, whether it's high school or college, university level, PhD level. They're repeating what they read in the damn textbook because that's their job.
Yeah. And I mean, I noticed like a lot of times, like all you have to do is tell people a couple of facts about something, they're satisfied, they move on.
Yeah.
They don't, well, I mean, we don't know dating of everything is so crazy, so
Yeah.
inaccurate,
Yep. Yep.
so whatever. I mean, we don't, I, I think things could be way younger than they are, or they could be way. I don't know. I don't. It's at some point you don't even. I've gotten to where I don't care so much about the dates because I can't know. And there's been a way that it's been kind of just you know squ- uh just glossed over like it's not important. Not just academia, but I think there's a systematic cover up which is pretty obvious when you really start getting into that. And that would I could explain why, but it would take me a little too much time right now.
Right.
But yeah, we have a systematic cover up that is currently happening and has happened of history and of like pretty much everything, I guess. But the other thing is that let them have their gladiators so that they won't pay attention to the taxes. All this stuff is a distraction from us figuring out like what we're in some kind of
Right.
way.
Well, I want to get into the specifics of mountain building because you mentioned that Terra had this skin and that you were going into the skin of Terra. And first of all, did you think of Terra as a living being? What was it like before you were building mountains? And then how did you manifest the material for the mountains?
So she's a living being, but she's not an animal in the way that we think of our animals. Like she's organic and um I just sort of but even she's like a created organic. Mm, uh that's kind of like my feeling. Like this is more like I don't have specific memories about like her exact creation. I just come into this one memory of um like creating how she would function and when what she would be and what this like it's almost like you're a video game creator like trying to figure out like what what this level is going to entail and so it was a very there's a lot of light balls. I don't know. I want to say people, but I don't know that they're people, but there's a lot of individuals involved in this. It wasn't a one person thing, and it was like a collaborative art thing. And uh like I know that air was created, but that was after um like atmosphere was created, like the sky was created, was decided upon how it would work. Like um my specific thing was really trying to form variation in like terrain instead of it just being one solid mass. And then like the water seemed to be a later addition, but I know people were, it was okay. So the memory I have was that like the water wasn't like in continents and everything wasn't like that at first. I feel so crazy saying this stuff, but it was like a spider web of water, like where water was in the ether everywhere. It was all over everywhere, and that's what kept the
Sure.
ground moist and like more like a well skin thick. So like the water was in the ground of the organicness of the earth, and then a certain radiation above, like so there wasn't weather yet, there wasn't clouds, there wasn't wind, there wasn't stuff like that. It was just like as the light, I could tap into water anywhere I wanted to at all time. It was everywhere. It was like dew all over.
So the ether, meaning the fabric of the universe. So like the fabric of the universe, at least locally around Terra, had water in it.
Yeah, it did. I don't think that mountains were created quite like they've been destroyed from how they were originally created. They were kind of more structured and cooler and more like buildings in a kind of elaborate way when they were first made.
Yeah.
I've been saying for a while that like the well skin, like the organicness of it, it's like now we're on like broken bone, like or like something happened that destroyed the water matrix and the ether of it. The water then collected into oceans and seas and lakes and streams and rivers, which it wasn't. It was everywhere. It was like what was breathed at one point, or it was like the food of what was everything. And it wasn't like we were all at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, it was just like a thicker air density that the water was everywhere in.
Right. And it was like you say, it was the ether. It wasn't because the air wasn't even around yet, but it was in the fabric of
It
the
was
universe
in the ether. It was all
around
over the ether. Yeah.
and
It was
in.
alive. Water was like
Okay.
we killed water. Water was now water just goes flat. It's just a dead log. I mean, it goes flat anywhere it is. Like you put it in anything and it goes down to the flat surface.
Yeah.
Water itself had a buoyancy. Water itself, just how light was conscious. So like water had a an intelligence in and of itself as well that was alive more than it is now. Like so yeah, basically the quality of so weird. The door just opened by itself and nobody even came. That's yeah. It's like they're like, shut up, don't talk too much. But yeah, like it yeah, the water.
Well, you were talking about the well water in Arkansas and how nice it is. So is that partially like getting back to the life of water that it used to have?
I think that some kind of frequency destroyed everything. Um, because I remember a rage sound, like a actual kind of noise that just broke some stuff. And I don't know if we can ever go back to what was, but I hope we can.
What you remember, when you say you remember, this is not the same memory of the time when you were building mountains. This is some other past life memory.
No, this is when I was still a light bulb.
Oh, oh, so the living Earth somehow got destroyed almost immediately after you guys created all the cool stuff?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think we were even done creating all the cool stuff. I think like we would build up and almost kind of form like cool, like emerald cities or like some cool stuff that would like look cool out of the well skin or whatever. And then something happened where it just got like melted off and everything like got just like some sort of frequency happened that cracked everything and made the well part, like the organic part of the earth, it almost like that her skin just got burned or charred or hurt or damaged.
So like you were saying, the mountains, even though we would consider the mountains really cool looking today because they're so dramatic compared to the flat landscapes, you're saying that they looked way more constructed, maybe crystalline in nature back in the day?
Oh yeah, they did look more like there was way more of a uh like they were like a cool created, like
Obviously created.
obviously created. Yeah. And I think when you go up to them and you can see the sutures or the cracks and the things in them, you're seeing remnants of old structure.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about the planet as having been created because you said that she was created organic, what do you say, created organic material or
Yeah, so I don't think that she was like necessarily like we're on a giant turtle or we're
right,
on a giant well, as much as like I don't know how to, I don't know, like I mean, but there is a consciousness to her in and of herself as well, but she doesn't function exactly like other animals, but
right,
she is an organic consciousness. And I don't know how we created her, like from the base,
right.
but I just remember manipulating her once she was already in creation.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I want to have you on another podcast that I'm starting, and maybe you'll be the first one to come on, called Artifact Terra. And it's going to be about the building of the planet because I think what you're talking about is a many-stage process where Terra came into being. Um, for people who don't know what I'm talking about when I say Terra, they think our planet's name is Earth. Well, if you believe in ETs and you can handle that idea, the members of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, all of the members call this planet Terra. So
I mean,
no,
also the Celtics, like that's the Terra is actually Celtic for land. And that's like what you know, like what like a lot of ancient cultures believed that it was called. That's what the land was called, is what Earth was called, Terra.
right, and I think in Welsh it's Tyr, Tir. So this is not, it's not like it's Tyr.
Terra.
Tyr became Terra, or actually Tyr is probably it used to, everyone used to know it was Terra back in the day, and then they made us have different languages, and then we lost many of us lost many cultures lost the name of our own planet, which is kind of sad. But Terra is the name of our planet. So you're talking about a many stage process where the skin of the earth was already intact, and then you're going to dramatically you're going to give drama to the skin of the earth. That was your job.
Yeah,
and
building stuff, builder.
and then because of the terrain being dramatically given topography, you could imagine that that was the way that they created the rivers and the creeks and the lakes, because then it gave a way for water to flow. Because if land was just flat, then water wouldn't have any channels to go anywhere.
True, but the water wasn't ever meant to be flat, and it didn't even need lakes or streams or rivers initially. That was from a something broke, and something broke the water that then led into that. I have drawings that I've drawn of like what it looked like in my mind's eye, but
Well, we can talk on, if you want to come onto Artifact Terra and talk about this at a later date, we can go into more detail because I'd love to find out about this because it seems like you have incredible memories. And because every time I ask you a question, more stuff comes out, and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible.
yeah, I mean, I just don't have any past memories of like, oh, I used to be Cleopatra. I don't know anything like that. I don't know any
Yeah,
human lives. I just remember my my lifetime, my light time. That's funny. Uh,
nice. Well, I mean, you were a conscious light being. So yeah, conscious light. We already know from your past life as a light being that light was conscious. And then you're saying light itself, before it's a light being, is already conscious.
yeah. And I do remember thinking very differently than we think now.
We had vision that was 360. That's already
360. anything your light shone on was your vision.
Okay.
So you could see anything that any your light shone on, which was a lot. And I do remember kind of like going into the earth, going inside into the black stillness
Yeah.
to like kind of charge almost, or to like there was almost like we would congregate in there and then decide what we wanted to build before we would bring it out.
Nice. Well, for those people again who are immediately tuning out because they think you're crazy, imagine two tectonic plates coming together. This is what academia is saying happened. They're like with a sober face, they're very somberly, oh yeah, the tectonic plates came together and the mountain was created. Well, that's not what would happen. Two tectonic plates coming together would create rubble. It would just be a mass of rubble. There would be no beautiful mountains with horizontal layers. And
Yeah,
saying there wouldn't be
makes no
enlightenment.
sense the way they're telling you.
Yeah. So what you're saying is actually another way of looking at the creation of mountains that actually makes more sense than academia's total utter nonsense with tectonic plates.
I mean, I wouldn't say they were like our buildings today, like New York, like like Empire State Building, but they were like we would um build big solid structures and then have different mineralogy and things on them that were beautiful. And they even still at the first they had the well skin look on them still too, right? So um they weren't like this look yet. Like literally some kind of sound or frequency or burst of energy, or I don't know what you want to word, broke everything all at once. And then the earth and the water died and it came from in the ether and it just laid flat on everything. And then that was what happened. And
Wow.
other things started to form after that.
Good
There
God.
was a second set of building that had to happen after the first set was destroyed. But anyway, so some of the things like mountains are initially from the first set of building.
Right. But they're so eroded and so destroyed now.
Yeah, they are.
Well, they're destroyed by that sound that came in and then even more erosion over the years.
Well, true. The initial forms were from like focusing in on trying to make single points of focus
Yeah.
from the organic putty like material that was there. And then the ether was all around filled with water and filled with a completely different physics than we currently have. And then
Wow.
that was all broke at once. And then we had to rebuild things from a broken state and then add things differently. So like anyway, that's what I remember.
It's interesting because primitive culture, so-called primitive, um, they talk about a paradise before that Earth was a different atmosphere, that there was mist in the
Yeah, it was
atmosphere.
like mist.
So maybe they're talking about that original time somehow. They tapped into that.
Yeah, and I mean I don't really remember day and night.
Well, I really want to talk to you more. You're so damn interesting to
Well,
me.
thank you, Jock. Yeah.
I mean, my God, because
It
you,
doesn't mean I'm right about this stuff. It just this is like what I remember.
well, right, we each have to use our own discernment, and my discernment simply happens to resonate with what you're saying because everything you say makes sense to me. Like when you're talking about the Northern Lights and how they touched you and you sense that they were conscious.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. Everything you say makes sense, you know?
thanks. Yeah, because yeah, I mean, and I know people who are listening to your stuff are like totally gonna be like on game with this stuff, but my family thinks I'm wackadoo with this stuff. They're like, whoa, this is.
Well, I got to have you back on my other podcast that I'm starting called Artifact Terra because I want you to go deep into your memories and then give us some drawings that you made and
Okay, cool.
also
I'll do a little bit more prep work for that since if we're talking about that for sure.
cool because I want people to get the feeling of what it's like to be a mountain builder back in the day before anything when the earth was just a ball that had a whale skin feeling to the texture of the surface of the earth, and you brought topography, dramatic, beautiful, crystalline structures to this sort of amorphous planet.
I mean, and maybe other people did too, and maybe they'll start remembering because I wasn't alone. I'm not saying, hey, I'm God, I created all of this. I'm just saying, like, I remember some of it for sure.
And you say it was a group effort, that without the group you couldn't have done it.
No, yeah, and like we would mix things together and like swirl together and all kinds of stuff. And having this single point of focus as a human, it's frustrating, but it's a gift. It's really cool. Like this is not how it always is.
Hmm.
Like where you just have like I can sit here, I can look at Jock and I can breathe in and out and I can just like, whatever, try to think about the next three words I'm going to say. That in and of itself is a gift. Like we don't really know what we were or what we're going to be or like we don't, I mean, I just know that this was not how it always was. Like
Right.
there was a time where I was aware of much more. And this is like a nice little vacation because the single point of focus is actually a gift for a while it lasts.
Hmm. Oh, I see. I thought you were going to say because we have this much more intensity because we're focused on one thing, but you're saying it was more intense to
It's
have.
so much. You see, so much, and you see so much, and you are so much, and you are everywhere, and you see everything. And there's so it's like right now we have two cameras that are going into one image in our head. Imagine having a million cameras going into, like that's harder to process. So it's like this is like vacation. Being human is a vacation.
That's awesome.
So maybe when people are like, oh yeah, like I don't know, I don't want to look at that. I'm like, it's because they're on vacation.
You're awesome. Now, I mean, there's so many great titles I could title this video now because you bring up so many things. I could call it Human Vacation. I could call it Conscious Light or Renaissance Woman or Mountain Builder or, you know,
Yeah, well, I'm gonna leave that up to you. That's hard to always make that decision on what to call videos. I struggle with that all the time. I always do three things. Like so I'd be like the Renaissance woman conscious light consciousness, like whatever, da da da.
right. Renaissance Woman explodes into conscious light or something, you know.
Yeah, some kind of crazy thing like that. People be like, "What?"
Well, you're breaking the matrix over on your channel, but are you sort of stepping back from that while you're gathering crystals in Arkansas?
I intend on coming back to it pretty soon. I have taken a break for the last like 6 months or so. I mean, a lot of that was I was newly married, moving, didn't have internet, like just have other stuff going on in my real life that I'm like, I'll get back to it, because it takes a lot of time to edit and do all the stuff, and and I've done it for 5 years and it's a cool hobby, but it just, I needed us to step back to see what I really want to focus on going forward. And so I'm ready to come back into it pretty soon. And so yeah, you can check out my channel. It's Nikkiana Jones Exploring the Fringe. I'm on like YouTube and all the other alternatives to YouTube, and I'm on podcast form too. So that's cool.
And you're going to start doing tours around the world, right?
Yeah, like I have my first tour that sold out with Mike Collins from Wandering Wolf, and we're going to Peru. We're doing that in October, and then next year in October of 2025, if you guys are interested, we have a really cool Turkey trip that we're putting together right now. We have a 10-day option, and then you can add on an additional 6 days for it to be a 16-day thing. But we're gonna do Göbekli Tepe and Karen Tepe and Darren Kuru and like Cappadocia, like balloons. Yeah, like we have a whole thing going with all the cool megalithic sites. And like, yeah, my tours are really focused on ancient, cool spiritual sites, but also just like megaliths and finding weird anomalies that shouldn't be there but are.
And so you're going to like take hot air balloons over the Cappadocia area.
Yeah, because I really want to see because those like, anthill looking
Yeah.
geology mountains. I want to see them from above looking down. I went on a hot air balloon at the New Mexico Balloon Fiesta before. It was so cool. It's peaceful. It's scary because at one point you're looking down going like, oh my God, I could die. This is so
Yeah.
high up.
Yeah.
But at first it's like a very peaceful takeoff, so it doesn't jerk you or you don't feel like it's not the same as an airplane. Like there's no engine going. So it's a very peaceful experience to do.
Nice. That's really nice for a spiritual tour. Now the image before you go, the image behind you is probably from Peru, right?
Yeah, this is from Sacsayhuaman in Peru. And
Okay.
I just like to have now I just like my backgrounds to be rocks because I reference them so much that it's like, I need to have them on there.
Yeah, because you basically refer to yourself as a rock hound, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have so many projects within rocks, but I collect tektites and meteorites. I have pretty much every kind of rock you could possibly think of. And I used to just do stuff I found, but then lately, last 5 years, I've also bought a lot of really good specimens. I have a ton of I found a species of dinosaur teeth that no one's ever found before. And so I actually do a lot of hounding myself, like going and digging in the field.
Right.
Um and then but I do buy from I go to the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show every year, and at one point the aspiration was, oh, I'm going to start selling rocks, but then I get too attached to them and I can't sell them.
Right.
So I, maybe maybe I will one day sell some things that I can part with, but yeah, I definitely like to have rocks around, and I always kind of think of it like I'm building a global portal of like getting to touch all the minerals that exist everywhere all in one place so I could sit and think about them. I also get a lot of downloads from holding rocks from certain places. So that helps me with if I hold them to think about like if I'm thinking about a certain area, I like will get something from there and like use it to sort of um ponder on or whatever.
Or like guide you in where you should go when
Guide
you
you on. Yeah. And I think of it, it's like it is like light in it's like iced light, right? Like it's light in solid form. That's
yeah.
what rocks are. So, or that's how they were when I remember making them. So I almost feel like I can go back into like if you think of them like that, like it's like we're electric guests on the planet right now, right? Like that's what you are for the time being. And like your soul is got its own frequency. And I think that like any mineral or rock has been here for a long, long time. And I think it's a really interesting solidified light that you can yeah, tap in to get some information from if you like start looking at it as one light to the next light. Maybe it's just way slower light right now than you are, but you can commune with it.
Well, Klaus Dona talked about a crystal that he and a companion in the laboratory were looking at, and out of this crystal came a hologram of a scene, and it wasn't just a picture, it was a video of some guys on horseback going across the scene, and that it came out of this crystal. And so you got to wonder if crystals are libraries for information, and
People
since
have said that. I wonder, and I wonder how
yeah,
to access it.
well, right, that's the thing, and the earth seems to be largely crystalline itself, right?
Yeah. I mean, it has a
So
lot of crystalline structures. And we have a crystal and your pineal gland is like a kind of sand grains, which is sand is quartz. So if there's like we have a natural your teeth are akin to apatite is the mineral that our teeth are closest to. Yeah, we're living crystals. Like, and they say your teeth are your time crystals.
so we have crystals in our pineal gland.
Yep, you do. And like a crystal's function within like your phone or whatever is amplification. So quartz particularly amplifies things or crystals do. Um
Hmm.
and then like there's carbon acts as like a conductor, and like there's conductive stuff, there's magnetic stuff, there's whether it's ferrous or non-ferrous, which is magnetic or not magnetic, and I mean, there's all these different properties that minerals have, but I mean, we have some of them within our own bones. So, yeah.
Well, Walt Whitman, the poets, are always ahead of the scientists, and Walt Whitman wrote a poem called I Sing the Body Electric. So if carbon is a conductor, then that gives reason for us being electric beings. And I think this is becoming more and more common knowledge. And I think Nikola Tesla is actually becoming one of the most searched terms on the internet, even though academia tries to relegate him to a man who was in love with a pigeon.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's sad. Like I went to Colorado Springs, they've taken his entire Tesla tower down. Like there's nothing there to see. It's really interesting. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nikkiana Jones, for coming on the show. I mean, my God, you totally
thank
blow.
you for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm thrilled to learn from you.
And I from you. Like I loved like your pointing out all the different parts of the rocks.
Yeah, maybe I'll call it She's Not Crazy. That's what I'll call the video.
That would be that. There you go. I approve. That's it. That's what the video should be called. She's not crazy. Sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Talk soon.
Okay.
Bye.